Okay guys, I got a message that I have poor exhaust fluid quality. Exhaust fluid quality poor. See owner's manual. Now my speed is limited to 65 miles an hour. I had a message up there for a while. It said in 100 miles it's going to start limiting me to 65. And then after that it says transitioning to 65 mile per hour limit because of poor exhaust fluid. So yesterday I put in some more Blue Def, filled it up all the way, thinking that would dilute it. And then I drove another 20 miles and it was limiting my speed to 65. And it still got that message up there. So maybe diluting it down with fresh def did not do it, did not clear that out. Next, it says it's going to limit me in 41 miles to 55 miles an hour. And it wants you, to look at your owner's manual. I looked in the owner's manual and it said that after it limits to 55, it's going to limit you to 5 miles an hour. Which I think that's ridiculous that they can do that just to save some pollution. Just your truck's going to pollute a little bit more, but you're going to cause so many issues with, if you're on a trip somewhere and this happens to you, it's going to cost you money to get your truck towed. I think that's wrong. They shouldn't do that. There should be a code that comes up, but it shouldn't limit your speed and not allow you to drive your vehicle. That's just wrong. So what I'm doing today, I've got my scan tool. I'll turn it on. It's a launch scan tool. It's a tablet style scan tool. And I'm going to see if I can do a reset on this so I can keep driving my truck. Because obviously I won't be able to drive in 41 miles. I won't be able to drive anymore. So as soon as this gets booted up, I'm going to show you what I can do with the launch scan tool. This is like a dealer level scan tool. Whatever they can do to dealer, you can pretty much do almost everything on this scan tool. As soon as it gets booted up, we're going to take a look. Back to, it's reading the VIN. And it's going to decode the VIN. And we'll see what we can do. We'll do tells you about the truck. Sorry for all the glare, guys, but it's just the way it is. It's a really shiny screen on this. Okay, we're going to do a system scan. Scanning all the modules right now. There's a lot of modules. The newer the vehicle, the more computers are in it. Even the radio has a module in it. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to click on ECM. Going to read fault codes. Okay, and let's start with this one here. Diagnostic trouble codes. Saying the NOx sensor performance pass and fail. This ignition cycle not run since last diagnostic trouble code clear, passed and failed. It does not have a malfunction indicator light for that, but it did come up with this symbol here, that little DEF fluid symbol. So either the NOx, which is nitrogen oxides, is high because of the poor quality exhaust fluid, or there's a bad NOx sensor. I'm going to clear this out, and then I'll see if I can drive without any restrictions on my speed. So I'm going to clear this fault code. Okay, it's cleared out. We'll see if that will clear this message off of my screen here. Still have the message up there. So clearing that code did not, let's read the fault codes again. No trouble code, system normal. So it set a code in there 1,200 miles ago for that NOx. So just clearing that code will not get rid of the limit. We're going to have to do something else. I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to go through this list and see what else I can do. Okay, I went into the live data, and it has exhaust after treatment data. I can look at that. Let's take a look. I've never looked at this before. So these are all different parameters. It has 70 parameters. So that's quite a bit. Let's see if something with the NOx here, what I can read. It has a lot on the diesel particulate filter. Lots of different PIDs for that. Let's take a look, just for fun. Let's look at the how much soot accumulation is on the DPF. What the code I'm getting here is nothing really to do with the DPF. There's two different systems on these diesels. The diesel particulate filter collects soot, and the SCR, which that reduces NOx, and that's what's the exhaust fluid sprays into your SCR. It's like a catalytic converter for diesels. Here's let's look at these here. NOx sensor 1 and 2. So it has a NOx sensor before the SCR and after the SCR, just like a catalytic converter on a gas vehicle. It has an oxygen sensor before and after the catalytic converter. Concentration, let's look at this. Oxygen concentration or NOx concentration. Let's look at the NOx just. This might be interesting too. Number of completed DPF regens. There's a lot of things in here. What else? Hit OK. It's going to bring up the data. So I've had 51. No, that's the value. So standard range is 0 to 255. So right now the DPF doesn't have much sit on it. Concentration of NOx on sensor 1 is 59, and on sensor 2 after the SCR is 0. So it's, to me it sounds like the SCR is working and the DPF is working. Or not the DPF, the DEF, like the DEF fluid, is spraying in there and reducing the NOx. Because look, it's 50, around 57. Normal is 0 to 400 parts per million, so it's not that high, and it's reducing it to 0. Here's the number of regens completed. I just brought that up. It doesn't relate to this, but I was just curious because I have 40,000 miles, or a little over 42,000 maybe, and it did 109 regens since it's been new. That's just kind of interesting. So may take a chance and go for a ride with us and see if that clears out, because it's saying the NOx is 0. So that tells me everything's working properly. I'm going to see if that message goes away. Go for a little ride. One other thing that came to mind about this problem, since this sensor is reading 0, maybe that sensor is bad. I'm not sure. I've never looked at the sensors before to see if that normally shows a little bit of NOx coming out the other end. It could be that that back sensor is bad and it's just not reading anything at all ever. So that could be the problem too. Okay, so I think what's going on, why was the second NOx sensor was reading 0 for a while, it probably doesn't read the second sensor until the engine warms up to a certain point, because it's like a catalytic converter. That SCR has to warm up before it starts to work, so it ignores the sensor 2 reading for a while, because now the sensor 2 is reading some NOx, right?
It went to 100.
It went to minus.
Yeah, it went to minus
100. So maybe that sensor's bad in there, because I don't think it should go to minus 100. It shouldn't go to any negative number, really. So maybe that NOx sensor is reading bad. It should, the top NOx sensor is the coming out of the motor, how much NOx is coming out, and then the bottom one should be lower than the top one if it's reducing, if the SCR is working properly.
It's minus 100 again.
Okay, so there's a malfunction right there. I think that might be the problem. That NOx sensor's malfunctioning.
It's still in it.
Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't read negative numbers, as far as I know. Okay, as I'm sitting here idling, the sensor number 2 is reading higher than sensor number 1, which to me that makes no sense. So I'm thinking that sensor is bad. And it was going into the negatives for a while there too. Let's see here. Yeah, it's still, the second sensor is reading higher than the first one. I don't see how it could read more. Now there it went into the negative 100. That makes no sense. So I'm thinking that sensor number 2 is bad. Okay, what I'm going to do is manually regenerate the diesel particulate filter, and then I'm going to take a look at the NOx readings on the sensors. So I've got the hood open, and we're going to go to actuation tests. I'll roll this window up, maybe we can see the screen a little better here. Go to diesel particulate regeneration, diesel filter service regeneration. This gives you a warning. And hit OK. Then we're going to turn it on. It's communicating. Turned on. It's starting to raise the RPMs. So it's going to run through regeneration by injecting a little bit of diesel into the exhaust to burn off the carbon on the diesel particulate filter. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to take readings on the NOx sensors. So this will clear everything out of the exhaust with the heat it generates. And then we can look at the NOx sensors. So I'll let that run and then I'll get back to you. Okay, here's the exhaust pipe. This has a kind of a heat shield over the exhaust system. Let's see how hot that heat shield's getting. 270-ish. You can see where the heat shield is right here. Let's take a reading on that exhaust pipe. 500, 580, 590, 600. Okay, it sounds like everything's idling down now. It's been about 10-15 minutes, I'd say, and it's all idling down. So we'll take a look at the so it's still on. Regen not required. Commanded state is still on. Seems like it's done with its regeneration. And the pipes got up to 600 degrees. So what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this off. And we're going to go straight to the NOx sensor. Got a reduction system. Pay test. It's going to do a similar thing. It's going to heat everything up. And we're going to look at the NOx sensors, input and output. Right now they are pretty close to each other, so it's not injecting any DEF, diesel exhaust fluid. Both numbers are pretty close to each other. We're going to start the test. Starting it. It's going to run it up to about 2,000. I'm going to keep an eye on these numbers. See if they stay about the same. So I just did a regen of the diesel exhaust particulate filter, and now we're running the reductant system test. And we're keeping an eye on these NOx sensor numbers here, and we'll see if that all clears up, because I was getting a number here that was higher than the second sensor was reading higher than the first sensor. Okay, it's injecting some diesel exhaust fluid, and the numbers are dropping, so that's good. It looks like everything's working the way it should. Let's see, it's adding a DEF. So it could be I had too much ammonia in the SCR, and it was reading that. Yeah, everything seems to be working good. It's starting to reduce the amount of diesel exhaust fluid it's injecting. You see the number going down here. And the parts per million on the second sensor. So I'm hoping this will clear out this action required here. Or if I can go in there and reset it. I was getting a message when I tried to reset it before that the knock sensor was outside parameters or something like that. It looks like everything's working good now. Still running tests. So it's best to run a regen cycle and then run this test second. I tried running this test before and I was getting some weird numbers. The second knock sensor was reading higher than the first one. And it also wasn't injecting any diesel exhaust fluid. So best, if you're going to do this and you get that warning up on your dash like that, run a regen cycle and then run the reductant system service bay test and see how everything comes out. Looks like it's working good. I notice it's injecting less and less diesel exhaust fluid, and the NOx numbers are going up a little bit on the second sensor. We're going to let this run all the way through. I tried running before and it shut down. It aborted it because of the second sensor reading was too high. So this time it looks like it's going to run through this entire test without a problem. I'm just going to film the entire progress here. Hopefully this test will be over pretty quick here. That's funny, it's starting to go into the negative 1 again down here on sensor number 2. Starting that again. Yep, I just accidentally hit the screenshot. That's kind of funny it's doing this. -1. I hope it doesn't abort the test. Hopefully it'll finish the test all the way through. It looked for a while there, it looked like everything was going good. Now all of a sudden the sensor number 2 is reading -100. That doesn't seem right. So maybe that, I was thinking the sensor was okay and it was just leftover ammonia in the SCR. But we'll see if this test runs all the way through. That may be a normal reading once it starts coming out clean. I don't know. But it is injecting DEF still. So let it run on through, see what happens. It's been about 10 minutes so far. Okay, now I just noticed the still injecting DEF, and the sensor number 2 is showing a higher reading than the first sensor. That should be a reduction number there. It should be less than that first sensor. Okay, it's saying it failed now. It aborted the test. Reason none. Reductant system malfunction warning, service bay test failed. Reduction system malfunction warning, service bay test aborted. No reason. Okay, I'm thinking it ran the complete test this time, but it has failed the test because of the sensor, that second sensor reading oddball numbers. So I'm guessing that sensor number 2 does need replacing. It looked for a while like it was working fine. I think when I did a regen cycle on it before this, it burnt all the carbon off of that sensor and it started working for a while. And now it's giving some weird readings again. It was going negative 100 and higher readings in the first. See, the injector turned off. So that's it. I guess I'm gonna have to replace that sensor number 2, which I'm probably gonna take it to the dealer and have them take care of it since it's still under warranty. And I'm still getting the warning on the dash about the diesel fluid poor quality.